pajaritos que vienen de fuera, de colores enseñarlo y queremos lucir, y por eso los grandes amores de colores son los pajaritos que vienen de fuera, de colores enseñarlo y queremos lucir, y por eso los grandes amores de muchos colores.
Like his role models, Gandhi and MLK, Cesar Chavez believed in nonviolent protest, and this is the story of Cesar Chavez and his struggle in the fields. Cesar Chavez was born March 31st, 1927 in Yuma, Arizona. His parents were Juana Estrada and Librado Chavez. He had 2 brothers and 2 sisters. Their names were Richard, Librado, Rita, and Vicky. He grew up in a small adobe home in which he was born in. His family owned a grocery store and a ranch, but both were lost in the Great Depression. After they lost the house, they moved to California, where they picked peas and lettuce in the winter, cherry and beans in the spring, corn and grapes in the summer, and cotton in the fall. Chavez quit school in 8th grade in 1942 so his mother wouldn't have to work in the fields. Also, his sister Rita and him would give free rides to farm workers to take them to see a doctor. Chavez became a full-time migrant farm worker after he quit school. In 1944, he joined the Navy and described it as 2 of the worst years of my life. When he got back, he married Helen Fabella, who worked in the fields with him. They moved to San Jose and later had 8 children. His children's names were Fernando, Sylvia, Linda, Eloise, Liz, Paul, Anna, and Anthony, and a later total of 31 grandchildren. As Cesar worked in the fields, he realized how poorly treated the migrant farm workers were. As Cesar saw how bad migrant farm workers were being treated, he decided to take a stand to it and co-founded the UFW, which helped migrant farm workers get better rights and working conditions. He does this by organizing strikes and boycotts. At its peak, the UFW had 70,000 members and was one of the largest farmers' unions in the world. The Delano Grape Strike from 1965 to 1970. At the Delano Grape Strike and boycott, they stopped all migrant farm workers from working and stopped eating grapes. The Delano Grape Farm was a very big manufacturer of grapes, which took a large hit to sales by this boycott, in which they had no one to pick the grapes and not many people to buy them. Chavez in 1968 announced that he was going on a fasting, or to go without food, to eradicate thoughts of violent protests. He went 25 days without food, and doctors didn't think he was going to make it. But remarkably, he survived. And all thoughts of violent protests were gone. He also attracted the attention of Robert F. Kennedy, a senator who visited him. During the protest, he marched 250 miles from Delano to Sacramento.
All of the farm workers on strike here in Delano are appalled at the shooting of Marcelino Barajas and Paul Salgado. We've known now for over 10 years that the strike breakers and the growers are armed. We communicated this to Sheriff Wiley. There's been now, this is the 8th incident where we have had shootings at us. Last week, 5 days ago, another striker was wounded. We charge that the arming of the strike breakers and the growers is with the consent and with the knowledge and with the encouragement of Sheriff Wiley. They have known that the men are armed inside the fields, and they have done absolutely nothing to try to correct the situation and take the guns and the rifles away from them.
Even though these were non-violent protests, strike breakers and growers erupted into violence towards the migrant farm workers. After this violence had erupted, the strike and boycott still went on, and finally, growers led up and signed contracts with the UFW, which guaranteed migrant farmers better rights and conditions. During the strike and boycott, Cesar Chavez received a telegram from Martin Luther King saying, "Our separate struggles are really one, a struggle for freedom, for dignity, and for humanity."
Costly thing not only to us but also to the employers. But I think that because, even though however unfortunate the experience might have been and the struggle on both sides, that because of that experience we have created the foundation to what I think is going to be a very good working relationship with the grower community in Delano. 10,000.
The Salad Bowl Strike, or also known as the National Lettuce Strike, was a series of strikes and boycotts led by the UFW, in which they led one of the largest farm worker strikes in U.S. history against the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, which were a union that signed contracts with the growers before the UFW did. During the strike and boycott, the UFW was suffering immensely and losing the battle physically, legally, and organizationally. As the violence worsened, the UFW began to buckle under the pressure. But the Teamsters had also suffered greatly, and on September 27, 1973, the Teamsters again agreed to leave the power of the farm fields to the workers of the UFW. As Cesar participated in another fast for life for a duration of 36 days, he got the pleasure to meet Bobby Kennedy. Cesar was also respected by other politicians and civil rights leaders. The fight is never about grapes or lettuce. It is always about people. Quote by Cesar Chavez. Cesar Chavez died in San Luis, Arizona, April 23, 1993, of unspecified natural causes. But his legacy lives on today, and the President of the United States came to honor him at his grave in Keene, California, outside of the UFW headquarters. Cesar Chavez's legacy still lives on today, in which he was on a stamp and was on the cover of Time magazine. Google honored Cesar by putting him on their front page on Easter, over their usual Easter theme. There's even a Cesar Chavez Day, which is celebrated in California, Texas, and Colorado, which is celebrated March 31st on his birthday, and they are also pushing for a national holiday. Cesar Chavez's role to this country was so important, we even have a ship named after him, the USNS Cesar Chavez, which is a Lewis and Clark dry cargo ship which was launched in 2012. His message is still continued today, in which people recognized and made the movie Cesar Chavez, History is Made One Step at a Time. When Chavez died, his legacy didn't end. His grandson, Andre Chavez, still continues his legacy and teaches people about his grandfather and what role he had to society. Cesar Chavez was a hero, civil rights leader, and also a role model to all